In a city obsessed with wealth, Oliver, disguised as a poor man, seeks a genuine bride away from his affluent world. He meets Emily in a village where he must overcome a formidable challenge set by her stepmother to win her heart. As Oliver navigates this test, he plans a surprising return to his former life, only to face unforeseen trials. His journey to prove his true intentions culminates in a dramatic revelation that reshapes their futures. Their story unfolds with tension and romance, leading to a transformative conclusion. Welcome to Tales by Gemini Bay, where we bring the most captivating stories to life. In a grand city known for its wealth and luxury, there lived a prosperous family with only one son, Oliver. Oliver's parents, proud owners of a vast estate, pressured him to marry early. However, Oliver wanted to marry a woman of good character, not someone who only desired his riches. He knew that in their city, where everyone sought wealth and prestige, it would be hard to find a sincere bride. Oliver had a clever plan. He decided to disguise himself and leave his life of luxury behind. He would move to a small, humble village nearby, where no one knew him, and live as a poor man. This way, he could see who would love him for who he truly was and not for his wealth. When Oliver shared his plan with his parents, they were shocked. They couldn't believe their son, the heir to their vast empire, would want to live as a poor, lonely man in a remote village. His parents tried to convince him not to go, but Oliver was determined. He explained that everyone in the city already knew him and would pretend to be something they were not to win his heart. Reluctantly, his parents agreed to his plan but gave him a strict deadline, 2 years. If Oliver didn't return with a bride by then, they would choose one for him, and he would have no choice but to marry her. To prepare for his new life, Oliver let his hair grow wild and stopped shaving. He bought some cheap, worn-out clothes to look the part of a poor man. After a month of this transformation, he was ready. He left the city early one morning, taking only a small bag with him. When he arrived at the bus stop, the driver asked him where he wanted to go. Oliver thought for a moment and replied, "I'm looking for a village where the people are kind and I can start my life over." The driver, noticing Oliver's rough appearance, felt sorry for him. "Let me take you to my village," the driver offered. "The people there are good-hearted, and you'll have no trouble finding a place to settle." Oliver thanked the driver and accepted his offer. After a long ride, they arrived at a small village. It was nothing like the bustling city Oliver had left behind. The village was quiet, with modest homes and simple people. The driver took Oliver to his home and introduced him to his wife and children. The driver's wife welcomed Oliver warmly, even though he looked like a beggar. She prepared a small room for him, and Oliver settled in, determined to start his new life. The next day, Oliver began his search for a wife. He found it difficult to adjust to the village's simple way of life, but he was determined to succeed. He took up a job as a helper at the local market, pushing a cart and helping people carry their goods. It was hard work, and many villagers treated him poorly because of his appearance. They spoke to him harshly and often refused to pay him fairly for his work. After a year and a half of this, Oliver was ready to give up. He hadn't found anyone who treated him with kindness or respect. He began to think that his parents were right and that he should return home and marry whoever they chose for him. But before he made his final decision, the driver, noticing his sadness, suggested that he try working at a different market, one where he might meet new people. Taking the driver's advice, Oliver moved to a new market. A week later, while helping customers, he met two sisters, Sarah and Emily. They had just finished buying groceries and needed help carrying them home. Oliver offered to help, and while Sarah was rude and demanding, Emily was gentle and kind. As they walked, Emily spoke to Oliver with respect, and he noticed her warm heart and gentle nature. When they arrived at the sisters' home, Sarah went inside, leaving Emily to carry everything in. Oliver offered to help her, and she accepted. As they worked together, Oliver asked, "Why does your sister treat you so poorly?" "She's my stepsister," Emily replied softly. "Since my mother died, and my father married her mother, I've had to do all the chores. It's just the way it is." Oliver was moved by Emily's story and admired her strength and kindness despite her difficult life. He began visiting the market every day, hoping to see Emily. Each time he saw her, he offered to help carry her groceries. Over time, they grew close, and Oliver realized he had found the woman he wanted to marry. One day, after helping Emily carry her groceries home, Oliver confessed his feelings. "Emily," he said, "I've fallen in love with you. I want you to be my wife." Emily was shocked. "But you barely know me," she said. "I know enough," Oliver replied. "You're kind, hardworking, and I can't imagine my life without you." Emily was touched by his words but worried about her stepmother, who would never allow her to marry a poor man. "My stepmother will never agree," she said sadly. "Don't worry about her," Oliver reassured her. "If you love me, I'll take care of everything." Emily didn't fully understand what Oliver meant, but she agreed to marry him. Just then, Sarah appeared, having overheard their conversation. She mocked them both, calling them a perfect match, a beggar and a servant. But Oliver ignored her, determined to make Emily his wife. Oliver decided to meet Emily's stepmother, Mrs. Clara, the next day. When they arrived at Emily's house, Mrs. Clara was already angry, having heard from Sarah about Emily's conversation with Oliver. She slapped Emily hard and ordered her to kneel in the hot sun. Oliver was furious, but he calmly told Mrs. Clara that he wanted to marry Emily. Mrs. Clara laughed in his face. "You, a poor man, want to marry my stepdaughter? How will you support her?" "I will manage," Oliver replied confidently. "Just tell me what I need to do." Mrs. Clara, insulted by Oliver's boldness, went inside and wrote down a long list of expensive items required for the wedding, believing he could never afford them. She handed the list to him with a sneer. But Oliver simply smiled and said he would return in a week with everything she had asked for. Mrs. Clara laughed as he left, certain that Oliver would fail. When Oliver returned to the driver's home that evening, he asked the driver to take him back to the city. The driver was surprised by the sudden request but agreed. Once they reached the city, Oliver asked to be taken to a large, well-known company. The driver hesitated, thinking a poor man like Oliver wouldn't be allowed inside, but Oliver insisted. As soon as they arrived, the guards outside recognized Oliver and quickly rushed to help him. The driver was stunned. Oliver handed the driver a large sum of money, far more than he had ever earned before, and told him to wait for further instructions. Then, Oliver went inside to meet his father and tell him that he had found the woman he wanted to marry. At that moment, his mother walked in with a beautiful young woman. She was surprised to see Oliver looking so rough and untidy. "Mom, Dad," Oliver said, "I've found the woman I want to marry. You gave me 2 years, but I found her in less." His father was overjoyed, but his mother looked disappointed. The young woman with her left the room in tears, and Oliver's mother followed her out, explaining that she had already found a bride for him. Oliver's father, however, supported his son's decision and gave his blessing for the marriage. A week later, Oliver returned to the village with a convoy of luxury cars and a truck filled with all the items on Mrs. Clara's list. When the driver and his family saw him, they were speechless. Oliver gifted the driver a brand new car and a large sum of money to support his family. Then, he went to see Mrs. Clara. Mrs. Clara and Sarah were stunned to see Oliver, now looking handsome and wealthy, arriving in such style. The truck parked in front of their house, and men began unloading the expensive goods. Emily was just as shocked, but also upset that Oliver had lied about his true identity. She ran off, confused and hurt. Oliver followed her and begged for forgiveness, explaining why he had hidden the truth. Emily understood, and they embraced, happy to be together. Sarah, seeing how wealthy Oliver was, tried to be friendly, but he ignored her and left with Emily. Back in the city, Oliver took Emily to the finest salons and boutiques. When she was ready, she looked even more beautiful than any woman in the city. He brought her home and introduced her to his family. His father warmly welcomed her, and even his mother, though initially reluctant, accepted Emily into the family. Their wedding was the grandest the city had ever seen, with people talking about it for weeks. As Oliver and Emily settled into their new life together, they encountered many challenges. Adjusting to each other's ways, managing family expectations, and handling the pressures of their new social standing tested their bond. However, their love and mutual respect saw them through. They started various charitable projects, using their wealth to help those in need. Oliver's parents, initially wary of Emily, grew to admire her kindness and strength. The couple also remained deeply connected with the simple village life that had brought them together. Years later, Oliver and Emily were known not just for their grand wedding but for their dedication to making a positive difference in their community. Their love story became a legend, inspiring many to seek true connections beyond material wealth. Moral of the story: true love is not about wealth or status but about genuine connection and mutual respect. A person's character and actions reveal their true worth, and it's through love and humility that we find the deepest happiness and fulfillment. If you enjoyed this story, kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Drop a comment to express your feelings about the story. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Check out our other videos for more interesting stories and adventures. See you in the next one.